Your Humanities Half Hour is brought to you by the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.
Welcome to Your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry. Close your eyes for a second and imagine looking out on the ocean. You know how still and quiet it is in the morning, and the color of the sky almost matches the color of the ocean. And imagine a horizon full of sails of traditional Chamorro and Carolinian canoes. That is not just a vision, that is a goal for the organization that we're talking with today. And it's my pleasure to welcome the president of 500 Sails, Inc., Emma Perez. Emma, welcome.
Good morning and half a day.
Half a day. Thanks for making time to come and share this exciting vision with us. You've been in the papers a lot recently, talking, I believe, to the Rotary Club, and I'm not sure about the Chamber, but what is 500 Sails all about?
So I love the picture that you painted, and I want to read something to you.
All right.
That was written in 1565.
Okay.
By a historian on the San Pedro. And this was somebody coming in, a Spanish galleon coming into the waters of the Marianas. And he writes, "We were no more than 2 leagues from the island when 50 or 60 proas under sail surrounded the fleet. These proas were furnished with lateen sails of palm mats and were as light as the wind. The day had scarcely begun when a great number of these proas appeared about us, more than 400 or 500 around the ships."
400
or 500. So that is where we got the name 500 Sails, because it happened in 1565. They were Chamorro canoes. And that vision started us down the path that led us here today to Saipan.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your husband and how you guys came to have this idea of reviving the traditional maritime culture.
Well, my husband and I are both half Chamorro, Familia Ngotsu. My grandfather and grandmother are from Guam, and Pete's grandmother was from Saipan. She's actually a Cebuan Pangasinan. And so we had ties to the Marianas. We grew up in California. We were raised as Chamorros. We cooked Chamorro food. We have rosaries. So when we had the opportunity to move back here for good, it was like coming home. So years ago, maybe 10 years ago, there was an article in the paper about Mao Piaoluk's trip to Saipan and one of his voyages. And Peter started thinking about, well, where are the Chamorro canoes? And he started doing all this research and found this first-person account and found all kinds of pictures that had been drawn 1500s, 1600s, and realized that there had been a healthy, thriving Chamorro sailing tradition. And after the Spaniards came in, it was lost. So he got this idea that, well, we should bring it back. And so we started the process. He, through a wonderful coincidence, met Mario Borja, and the two of them worked towards making the Chetlu, which is the 47-foot canoe that was at Festpac. So one of the things that we found doing the research is that there was a drawing made in 1742 on Tinian, of all places, right over there, by an English ship there was a storm and it was there for about 3 months. And there was a nautical draftsman on board, and he made a blueprint. So we have a blueprint of an authentic Chamorro canoe. So that's when Pete and Mario got together. Pete and I were part of the first all-Chamorro relay team to swim the English Channel. That was the first fundraising efforts for this ship. And so we built the first one. And it was built in San Diego by Chamorros. And it made its appearance at Festpac, and it was beautiful.
we actually had Mario Borja as a guest on this show. It was probably like 2 or 3 years ago. And what's so funny is I remember him mentioning a couple that had donated the redwood trees for the construction of the Sakman. And it was, he mentioned their last name, Perez. And I just thought that was so, cool and unusual that a Latino family would donate to this Chamorro project, not realizing that it was a Chamorro family living in California.
Yeah, it was pretty wonderful. The whole thing was pretty wonderful. So that Chatlu cost about $60,000 to build, and it took over a year. And our goal is to have 500 proas back on the water by the year 2030. Well, at $60,000 a year and a year plus to build one, it won't happen. So we had to think about what can we do to make it happen. And what we found out was that we can use the traditional design and build in fiberglass. And it's affordable and it can get into the hands of people right away. And we figure the cost, once we get the prototypes going and a mold done, that we can get the cost somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000. And our goal is to have a canoe house where there's a fleet of these proas, where people who don't own one can just become a member of the canoe house and they can learn how to sail and go sailing. And that's our way to get it happening quickly.
So where are you right now in the process?
Well, the Chetlu was built out of redwood, and that was done because it was really hard to find a tree. There's no lemai.
In California.
In California. Well, even to ship one in, we couldn't find one, and there would be all kinds of restrictions on bringing something in. Exactly.
And,
So we did that one. Then we built a canoe house in our backyard in San Francisco, and we worked with fiberglass. And there's a man that we know who's a yacht builder who's been building yachts since the 50s that still exist. And he has this way to do it that's fairly simple. So we had Mario and the other builders come up to San Francisco, and we built a 25-foot hull in 6 days.
Oh, my goodness.
So instead of a year and 60,000, we built a hull in 6 days.
Okay.
And so once we get going, we'll be able to reproduce that process here. So where we are right now is we are working with Department of Public Works and DLNR. We have a memorandum of agreement with DLNR for 3 years. It's renewable for the old legislature building, which is the old 4-H building, to get that repaired. And our goal is to get in there. I met with them yesterday, and we should be able to get in there hopefully before Christmas, maybe January. So we're going to start ordering all the materials.
That's a perfect location because it's also ideal for tourists who maybe want to learn about this part of our culture to kind of, be exposed to what's going on. It's right there in one of our main areas. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about the spirit of your vision. Why did you and Peter feel that this was important?
Because it was so much part of the Chamorro culture, so much so that there were hundreds of ships. I mean, they were sailing, they were traveling amongst all the islands, and then it just stopped to the point where my father never talked to me about the sailing tradition, as if it didn't exist. And we found out that it existed, and I think right now, and it's happening across all of the Pacific Islands. This was something that came out of FESPAC, is that so many cultures are trying to get back their maritime traditions. And that's also something that I wanted to mention. When we got here, we were looking at the lost Chamorro sailing tradition. And when we arrived on Saipan and we realized that CNMI is so lucky to have 2 cultures, that the ocean is very, very important to them. Very important. So our goal isn't just to build 500 Chamorro canoes, it's to build 500 Chamorro and Carolinian canoes, because if you look out there now, there's nobody. Maybe the special occasion you'll see a handful of canoes. So it goes very, very deep, very deep. We're swimmers. And I can't tell you what it feels like to get out on the water when you can't see the land around you. It's so wonderful. I think there truly is a genetic memory, and people need to feel that. These kids who don't necessarily don't have real strong cultural roots, they need to get on the water and feel what that feels like, because it will be familiar. And it'll give people exercise. They'll be building boats, they'll be swimming, they'll be sailing. It'll give
awareness
skills
of marine resources.
Yes.
And respect for marine resources.
Yes, and tourism is an industry here. It's something that can really help us going. Well, what happens if these kids grow up and these young men and women start sailing? They can take tourists for rides. It can be an economic boost. It could be. I think one of the visions that we have is that Saipan can become, and the CNMI will be known for a place where the people build and sail boats. That it's not just a fluke or a handful of people. It's that everybody. That's one of the things we love about the location of that building, is it's across the street from the high school.
Now, you started 500 Sails with a advisory committee. Are they still in effect? And if so, who is on the committee?
The advisory committee right now is the same as it was in the beginning. It's Frank Cruz from Guam, very involved in the proa building out there, and Lino Olapai here. When we realized how important the Carolinian culture was to the CNMI, we wanted to be inclusive. So we met with Lino and asked him to be on our advisory board so we could go and ask him questions. And I think that's been really helpful, really helpful. And I look at this as a way to bring Chamorros and Carolinians together in a way that will be very inclusive, very positive.
It's really quite sad if you're familiar with the deliberate effort of the Spanish to destroy this part of the Chamorro culture, in that at a certain time they forbid Chamorros from sailing. And so I think what you were sharing about, being such a strong part of our culture, it truly is. It's just a part that has basically, for the large part, been forgotten.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see how it will revive us as a people when this comes to pass.
Well, when we've had the opportunity to meet with like Natibu and other groups of youth, their eyes light up. The boys and the girls. And they I want one. It's like, well, okay, you're going to come help us build them, and we're going to teach you to swim so you don't drown if you fall off, and then we're going to help you learn to sail, and you're going to get out there. And they're so excited, and I think that's something that's really, really important and special about this project, is that the effect it's already having on the youth just when they hear about it.
Well, we're speaking today with Emma Perez, the president of 500 Sails, a group formed to restore the Chamorro sailing traditions, and as she mentioned, also to benefit the Carolinians as well. And we'll be back with more after this break.
We're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Northern Marianas Humanities Council, and we are now accepting nominations for the 2016 Governor's Humanities Awards. Would you like to nominate someone who has made an outstanding contribution to the humanities? The categories are research and publication in the humanities, preservation of traditional cultural practices, preservation of CNMI history, lifetime achievement in the humanities, or outstanding humanities teacher inside or outside the classroom. Nomination forms are available at northernmarianashumanities.org or at our office at Springs Plaza in Gualarai. The deadline to submit is 4:30 p.m. on Friday, October 14, 2016.
Welcome back to Your Humanities Half Hour. We're talking today about 500 Sails, the vision of having 500 traditional sailing canoes on the waters in the Marianas by 2030. And our guest today is the president of 500 Sails, Emma Perez. Emma, help me out a little bit.
Okay.
I understand there's different kinds of canoes, and I'm familiar with some of the terms, but I'm not really sure what goes with what. Can you help us understand this a little bit?
I can share my understanding.
Okay.
So my understanding is that a proa is a sailing canoe. On the Chamorro side, there's a Galidi, which is the smaller one, and that's for inside the reef. And then there's the Sackman, which is the bigger one that can make longer voyages.
Okay. Like the Sackman that was
Like the Chetlu that is at that's in Guam right now, that was at FESPAC. Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned in the first half of the show was the importance of swimming. And surprisingly, especially when I was growing up, there are a lot of locals who don't know how to swim.
That's true.
How is your project going to help that as well? Or what are you guys doing now in that regard?
Well, it's very important that if you're going to be out on the water, you know how to swim. So one of the things we started 2 years ago was a free adult learn to swim program. Just for that. It's free. It's for local adults. It's Saturday at 2 o'clock at the Can Pacific Pool. Sometimes there are other classes at Beachside, and sometimes we teach village kids too. So we have an ongoing swim program. People should check our Facebook page under 500 Sails or Dolphin Club Saipan. We became a swim club recently to an official part of the swim program here in Saipan, along with Tsunami and Saipan Swim Club. But right now we're focusing on adults. So we have free swimming, and the sister club is Dolphin Club San Francisco.
Oh, cool.
Who recently donated 2 huge bags of goggles. So if people come to the swim class, they get to choose a pair of goggles that fit their face, and then they get to keep them.
Wow.
Because we want to encourage them to swim in the pool, swim in the ocean, just come to class and swim.
So basically, there's no more excuse for people who don't know how to swim because you are teaching for free.
Yep. Although the excuse is it's too far because it's up in Marpy.
Yeah.
So I say carpool.
Okay.
Get a group. share it.
Think of it as bonding time.
We've had over
Quality
200 adults come through our classes. A handful of them have actually done the Manyagaha swim. Yesterday I was up at the pool and the firemen were there. They're doing their fitness stuff, and I offered my services to them and kind of challenged them. Say, come on, guys, swim for Manyagaha next year. Let's do it.
Oh, Lord. All this stuff you're doing is not free. Where are you getting your funding from?
Right now, it's volunteer. It's volunteer. Although I'm very happy to announce that we did get some funding from the Humanities Council for the very first prototype. We received $12,000 grant. It's a 1-year grant. So we have the funds, and that's only for the tooling and the materials. So all the labor is free right now. All the time that we're spending, it's a labor of love that Pete and I have been going at for over 10 years.
Now, you mentioned the lower cost to build these canoes. I think you said like $3,000 to $6,000 maybe to do a hull or something like that?
Right.
About what size would that be?
That's our goal, kind of the standard, is going to be the 25-footer.
That's pretty big.
It's pretty big, but it's perfect for going out in the reef, maybe Tinian, maybe Northern Islands,
Okay.
Around Saipan. I think it's a really good size, and it's not that hard to store. But we also want to build a Sackman, and we're working with a couple other organizations, putting together proposals to get funding for a 40-foot Sackman to make the trip to FESPAC in Hawaii in 4 years.
Wow.
Wouldn't that be great?
Okay, and who's going to be the navigator so I can decide whether I want to try to get on board or not?
So the first step, and I've been giving this a lot of thought in the last couple weeks because there's so much momentum towards actually getting the boats built. The next step is to develop the sailing program. And that's where we're going to need our friends in the Carolinian community to work with us to get the sailors trained. We haven't identified exactly who yet.
I think it's just amazing that in the short time that you've launched this project, you are accomplishing so much. Why do you think that is?
I think because
it's not one of those projects kind of, gets bogged down in bureaucracy or whatever, lack of funding. You guys are really go, go, go.
Well, part of it is that I like to think it's because Pete and I are long-distance swimmers. And you get used to the slog of just going and going and going. So we don't give up.
It's like being a telemarketer. Yes, I
No.
did that experiment. You just keep going and going. Okay.
No, but it's so important. And both Pete and I are like in our 60s. And so this isn't for us. This is for you and your children. We want to pass this on. We want people to learn how to do it. It's so important. And when we see people's eyes light up, it has to happen. And I think people are starting to they're starting to see the picture that you described. And if you see that picture, how can you not want it? How can you not want to feel that, the wind on your face and the sound of the waves and sticking your feet in the boat as it goes along the water and
seeing the turtles and the dolphins. Share with us some experiences you've had sailing.
sailing?
Yeah.
I got to, well, let me share Pete's because his are more fun right now. He got to sail on the Maisu back from Festpac from Guam to Saipan.
Okay.
And he was very lucky. And he let me know it was happening. He told me it was an 18-hour trip. So me, being raised in the States, was looking at my watch, going, okay, 18 hours. Where is he?
Yeah.
Where is he? And it took way longer than 18 hours. But they made it. And saw sea life. There wasn't a lot of wind. And you learn that nature is the clock. It's not 18 hours. You have to, give in to nature and respect the ocean and the wind. And it's a really... It's a way that we used to be.
I remember having a conversation with Uncle Lino one time, and he was saying that, somebody was kind of questioning why there was such an emphasis on reviving this culture. This was a number of years ago, or this part of our culture, and they were like, we have maps, we have GPS. Why do we need to navigate by the stars and the currents and the winds, and, we're fine. And Uncle Lino said very plainly, okay, fine. What happens when you capsize and lose your GPS and your map? Wouldn't you like to know how to navigate by the stars?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it seems like it's an obsolete skill, but it's actually more useful than having a GPS or a map.
Absolutely.
Well, what's coming up for you guys, and how can people best get involved?
Few things. We are at the International Festival of Cultures at Paseo, and it's tonight, next Saturday, and the last day is September 24th, from 6 to 10 p.m. Stop by. Ask questions. I can show you pictures and you can get signed up for more information. Watch our Facebook page. Like our Facebook page. It's 500 Sails and Dolphin Club Saipan. And come swim. Stop by the pool Saturday at 2. We can chat. You can learn to swim. If you're afraid of the water, that's fine. It's all levels. People are so kind of shy or reluctant, and you don't have to wear a bikini. You can wear shorts and a fitted t-shirt. Come swim and talk to us, and just keep an eye out, because there's going to be momentum, especially as the building starts getting repaired and we move towards getting it populated and starting that first canoe.
So exciting. Is there anything else people can do to assist you? For example, maybe somebody has a funding source idea for you. How can they best make that happen?
Email us at 500sails@gmail.com. That's the best thing to do, because we are actively looking for funding.
The Chamorros are known for the Latte Stone, of course. There's no other place in the world except the Marianas where you'll find the Latte Stone. And wouldn't it be wonderful if the proa also became an equally popular icon of the Marianas culture? It blew the Spanish away when they saw it, and it just amazed me to think, okay, the Spanish went all the way around the world,
right?
South America, North America, and when they got to the Marianas, I can just imagine their jaws dropping when they saw the proas and how agile they were in
Right.
the water and how fast they were.
They flew right by them.
Right.
Those pros just flew.
And as you said, it's an important part of the local culture. And I'm just so excited for you. And I want to thank you
Thank
for
you.
making time with us. And thank you for your vision. Thank you for your enthusiasm. And tell us again how people can contact you other than coming to the International Festival of Culture Saturday evenings at Paseo de Marianas this month. How else can they get in touch with you?
500sales@gmail.com.
All right. We've been speaking today with Emma Perez, president of 500 Sales, about their goal of restoring Chamorro and Carolinian sailing traditions in the Marianas. Please stop by the International Festival of Cultures this month or contact them if you'd like to be involved. Definitely keep your eyes and ears open for any announcements they have coming up in the newspapers. Emma, we look forward to what is up next for you guys.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here.
This has been your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry.
This program was supported by a We the People grant awarded to the Northern Marianas Humanities Council from the National Endowment for the Humanities. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities or the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.